Rolling.
Good afternoon, everybody. We are from VOX Populi, and today we have the honor of interviewing Dr. Jayathi. She is president at Oregon State University, a distinguished alumnus of IIT Kanpur. She earned her B.Tech degree in mechanical engineering in 1979 before completing her master's at Washington State University and completing a PhD in mechanical engineering in University of Minnesota. With a distinguished career spanning both in academia and industry, she is dedicated to shaping and inspiring the future of higher education, and we are privileged to hear her visionary insights in this interview. So we'll start with it. So welcome, ma'am. Yeah.
First of all, now we would love to know like how it feels to be back on campus here.
Feels amazing, right? As I've always said, IITK is such a big part of my formative experience as a young person. I don't think I will ever forget what it was like to be here. And this is true not just for me, but for all my classmates. Such an intense part of our growing up. So it feels so much like coming back home. I mean, I don't know if I told you guys this. My father, when he came to drop me off my first day at he stayed in visitor's hostel. He didn't tell you which room. So it was so strange to come yesterday and say, hey, well, okay, my dad was here when he dropped me off all those years ago.
Even so much of nostalgia.
Yeah, so much of it.
So like what changes do you feel in the campus surrounding?
Oh, lots of changes, of course. I mean, it's almost unrecognizable from standing over here, but also unrecognizable from 10 years ago. There's so much building. I mean, IIT is, 5 times bigger than it used to be. And I was there with about 2,000 students, now it's 10,000. Faculty have more than 4 or 5 times bigger. So many women. I mean, only girls' hostel is bombed, but about 6 there, but the other girls' hostel.
We have all four also.
All 4, yeah. So, and I heard yesterday that they're running out of space and are worried about how many girls are going to show up in this new batch, which is a strange problem to have. I would have never predicted it when I was here. One girl, 2 girls, no girls.
So they're extending the construction in all basically.
Yeah. And we drove around campus the other day and so much building and medical school coming up. Changed beyond it.
So like what memories do you remember of your convocation? Like your
I wasn't trained for convocation at all because convocation was held so late. I'd already gone home. See, I used to live in Hyderabad, and those days there were no flights, and we couldn't go to Kanpur at all by air, and so we used to take a train, 36 hours by train. So you couldn't just go and come anytime you want. So once I left, I left.
Oh, yeah. So also, so now as you have worked extensively on, increasing participation in the STEM, and we have a lot of policies like in India, we do have reservation,
Yeah.
and we have like affirmative action plan for the students specifically.
Yeah.
So I mean, what do you think? How affirmative action policies actually impact or benefit the marginalized community in STEM?
Yeah, I mean, look, so we didn't have, I think there's a 20% reserve for,
Yeah, right now
yeah, and that is newish, I think, right?
it's something like supernumerary seats.
Yeah.
So basically, they constructed the extra seats for women.
Yeah, for
And
women, yeah, yeah, we didn't have that, and I tell you that, it took how long to even get to 10-12% of women before we did that, and before I think 2018, the numbers were not anywhere near this high. And that's like so many decades after I left here, and still the numbers are low. So clearly, doing it has opened up the whole marketplace, and it's not coming at the expense of men because supernumerary. And I think it's going to transform the working population of engineers, and that's a really important thing. I think it's truly fascinating. I think when you look at it, you see that Indian women engineers are probably going to outnumber anybody else in the world. And what a place to be, but in India.
also, there's one thing, but like, how can institute ensure the continuous support for these groups? So basically, what we do have right now, I mean, I think it's everywhere across the group that we have the entry level support.
Yeah.
So in India, if we talk about like based on socio-economic background.
Yeah.
So that's only at the entry level that you get this.
Yeah.
But after that, there is no active, support from the institute to basically check on their academy.
Yeah.
So how can institute?
Yeah, I mean that's a very good question because we face that too also in the US, right? We've also got many folks who are first generation in college, parents didn't go to college at all, or from communities where they are substantially economically disadvantaged. And it's not enough just to admit people, right? And
Yeah.
after that, there has to be all kinds of support. There's got to be social support. Because frequently, they come from backgrounds where they're not familiar with this kind of there'll be sometimes academic support and there'll be like psychological support that will be needed. So we're trying to build that into our student services. I think you absolutely need that. Frequently, people who come from marginalized don't have this sort of inherent knowledge that we pick up from our parents or from aunts and uncles and all these connections that we have. We don't have. And that also shows up when you apply for graduate school, for example. You don't know that you can apply, where to apply, don't know how to get jobs because your uncles, friends, brothers, or so and so, and we can connect you. People don't have those kind of things. So even placement services have to be aware of this. And I truly think that counseling and support, psychological support, really.
So is there any active thing that are going on in the US?
Oh yeah, I mean there's a whole infrastructure that we build around that. So
For their support after the entry level.
yeah. So Dean of Students runs a whole set of programs for exactly that. There are also sort of student groups who are tied to the particular community. For example, for our Black students, there are many clubs that are particularly tied to Black students. We can have similar support. Other demographic groups also have it. I don't know if you do that here, but it's a way of bringing people together who share a background and therefore can be supportive of each other.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So, like, ma'am, since you have worked extensively for improving participation of women in STEM fields, so are there any particular affirmative action initiatives or measures you think they are actually successful to promote gender diversity in STEM?
Yeah, I think first of all, a lot is happening outside the university, right? We have to be aware that the world outside is changing. Right? Now, one of the things I found, this is a curiosity, is that women seem to like certain kinds of engineering. Now, I'm a mechanical engineer, but not really a mechanical engineering. But if I look back at our engineering schools that I have taught in, bioengineering attracts a lot of women. You see, a way that I was keep saying bioengineering is now majority women, 65% women. Environmental engineering seems to attract a lot of women. And I think part of it is that at least the young women I'm talking to seem to feel that having a social purpose to the people that taking matters a lot to them emotionally. It makes sense to them. And they seem less interested in mathematical gymnastics for the sake of gymnastics. They want it to mean something. I don't know what it is we bring up young women, but that's the feeling. But I think it's actually a good thing, right? There's nothing wrong.
Yeah.
And so it seems to me to indicate that teaching engineering in this really sterile, disembodied way is not a good thing for anybody, men or women. And connecting it strongly to your place in society, the fact that engineering has a social purpose and that you are a social being with social responsibility, this is a good message for anybody. And therefore, building those kinds of messages into engineering early on, as opposed to rewarding only pure brain and you get 100 in math, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter what you're going to do with your degree. That's not a good.
So you meant that we should associate a social value to it.
Yeah, because it's very satisfying to have a social value for the things that you're doing. Of course, it's satisfying to be brilliant and do wonderful things and do math theories. Of course, we can do that. But for a lot of people, perhaps for everybody, connecting to the world around you and doing good in the world is a happy feeling. Right?
Yeah.
It's the
Self-satisfaction.
yeah, so satisfaction.
Also, one thing, I mean, how do affirmative action policies in India compared to those in US? I mean, because there's a lot of difference in, I mean, so for example, in India, we have like very hard limits. So
Yeah.
X% for A,
Yeah.
5% for B. While in USA, it's like not that X%.
It's actually very, I mean, in fact, now, well, of course, there are many court cases going on and so on, but in fact, in many states in the US, you're not allowed to have any kind of thing. So in admission, the Supreme Court has, overturned that affirmative action. So we don't have it. In places like California, it was explicitly unlawful to do anything of the kind. You cannot do any kind of sacrifice for anybody, for women or for
It's socially.
yeah.
So there's no.
But private schools can do it. Stanford, something like that. We are a public university, state university, where we cannot.
So for private institutes, it's up to them that they,
Yeah, they can
if
do
do
it.
what you have done. But for the public, it's like
You can-
completely. Okay, fine. So I think so. Moving on to the next thing, that is the administration, student and
Yes.
student community, right? Because I mean, in most of the cases, students are vulnerable section,
Yeah.
and also when whatever decisions that are made at administrative levels, students are one of the group that are most impacted.
Yeah.
So how do you think what is the role of student communities in these kind of decision making at the administration?
Yeah, so we have a philosophy of shared government. Right? So we have shared government partners, faculty are shared government partners, students are shared government partners.
Like what do you mean by it?
Meaning that we have a culture of, uh, you know, talking to people and getting feedback before decisions are made. And in some cases, there has to be explicit sign off or something. So on the student side, for example, at our state, there's a body called ASOSU, Associated Students of the State University. And they are a student community with president, vice president. They have a senate, they have maybe subcommittees and so on. So even things like tuition, right? If we increase tuition, it will go in front of ASOSU, they will be able to they will pass a resolution, and so on. So there is an explicit sharing of information. I meet with the student body president once a month. We will sit across the table and they will tell me everything that's going on, and I will tell them what we're working on. And so
That's a very great system.
yeah, it's a good system.
I mean, it's not here at that
Yeah.
level.
It's worth thinking about is that I meet as president, but we also have student affairs who are much more regularly and talk to them and we always
So just a one note. I mean, is it that the dean will themselves meet students, or is it like students wants to meet them?
no, they set up regular meetings. They have
I mean, there are active regular setup meets too.
Yeah, and I have active regular setup.
Sure. Also, okay, so I mean, that obviously answers our next question, like in what way administration can be more responsive of students' needs and concerns.
It's a part of developing a culture, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so there is a culture of faculty shared governance here, right? Faculty senate, we can't pass some policy that the faculty don't like, and you have to let them know this is why we're doing X, Y, and Z, what do you think, and do it differently. That was a part of academic culture, and I think putting students into a similar structure is also
And that must be for the employees involved.
yeah, employees involved. Yeah.
Okay. Sure, because I mean, so for example, here we did had a students' protest in January.
For what? Protest for?
So I mean, the protest, the reason for the protest was, I mean, in the last December there were some suicides and
Okay.
by 3 suicides.
Yeah.
But the main reasoning, I mean, was the demand that there's lack of the redressal mechanism
For
the
mental
students.
health,
Yeah, mental health and all. Second thing is, I mean, there's very less active involvement from the administration side of students in policy making. I mean, it was most of very one-sided decision making
Mhm.
that was happening. So I mean, if you don't have structure at that place, but student might come and it will result into the protest as well. So in IIT Kanpur, we recently had a student protest in January. and it was basically driven by the students, to ask for the established retrieval mechanisms
Yes.
and the active feedback, from the students of the courses and all these things. And second, to actively engage students in the administrative decision making, which you said
Yeah.
that existed
Yeah.
at your university, a very good mechanism. So, I mean, as you're a part of administration, you've seen these things from both ends. I mean, from the institute and from the students. I mean, how do you see protest as a form of advocacy and representation?
I think it's a completely legitimate form of advocacy as long as you obey university policy. By which I mean, at OSU, for example, we have 10 case manner system, right? So you can't, I mean, you're allowed to protest. You can certainly march, you can do sit-in, you can sleep in, you can do all kinds of normal protest activities. You're not allowed to disrupt university events. So if I'm giving a lecture, you can't come and disrupt the lecture. If I'm holding a meeting, you can't come and disrupt the meeting. As long as you don't do those things, protest is protected. And you can say anything you want in absolutely and march against violent protests is fine, violence we don't do. So that is a game. Well protected.
I mean that was our next question, because when it comes to protest, so there is two things. I mean, you have to see the law and order in the university also,
Yeah.
and the students' right of protest.
Yeah.
So, what I mean by what you said, I mean, so do you have the explicitly policies of protest,
Yeah.
which is available to students, that
Yeah.
this is acceptable if you're doing a protest and this is not.
This is not it. And so, yeah, you can certainly take out like a morcha on the street completely. Let us know what time you're doing it so that we are protecting you, and it's mainly actually for your protection. So that you don't have cars and things running around. People can march. That's all good. What we cannot do is stop people from being able to drive or lock people into their offices. Those things.
So, I mean, you need to give the previous notice that you are doing.
Yeah, there are policies for giving notice. I mean, so if you're going to.
So, administration basically aids them in the
Yeah, it's
peaceful
not
protest.
yeah. Eighth meaning we provide the arena for protest.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you don't stop you and you want to be absolutely sure that you're safe, you don't get beaten up and you don't, run into trouble with the opposing viewpoint who may come and protest against you. Those things will also happen.
Because within students also, it
Also,
might
yeah, I
happen.
mean, many difficult issues like, Palestine, Gaza, there are pro-Israeli people on campus, there are pro-Palestinian people on campus. If they start fighting, they get hurt.
So I mean, if we talked about this topic, I mean, there's a lots of going on,
Yeah.
right? So how did you manage as a president? I mean, the protest, because there are really people who are pro-Palestinian,
Yeah.
pro.
Yeah, so that's hard, right? So, the big fear was really that there would be violence, and that's my fear. And I completely, my philosophy, our philosophy of OSU has been that the university does not take political position. So I don't say Israel good, Palestine bad, or Palestine good, Israel bad. We don't pronounce politically. And the reason for that is that the university, in my view, has to be an arena for open discussion.
Open
To be able to come up with whatever ideas you want, put them forward. They can be opposing ideas, argue with each other, convince each other, come up with a resolution. So the university has to be an arena where anything can be there.
I mean, that
Yeah. And you have to leave it open to say that. Right? So if somebody powerful like the president comes in and says this is good, that is bad, that completely kills off academic freedom. Faculty can't be right and say whatever they want. Students can't be right and say whatever they want. So I stay out of it. So I will never take sides, even though personally I may have an opinion. I won't issue those.
So I mean, I just one small doubt. So suppose if personally, if you have some opinion,
Yeah.
so you won't put forward it as a president. I mean, personally, so you,
Because personal and president always get mixed up.
Yeah.
So I stay out of both. You can't tell them apart.
that is a kind of responsibility.
Yeah. So you can go talk to your husband in the evening, but don't making political pronouncements. So I stay out. And that is philosophically to enable the university community, which is centrally tasked with generating new ideas and new philosophy, new knowledge. They should have complete freedom to figure whatever they want. And the opinions of society evolved by people engaging different viewpoints, different ideas, and from that come the paths forward. And you have to allow that to happen. University is the only entity where we have this kind of
And we have young minds.
young minds,
growing
and we will have many formative ideas. Absolutely debate.
So is it for the faculties also that you should not have your personal
Yeah,
opinion?
yeah. Because faculty are also generators of ideas. They're the ones writing books. They're the ones generating philosophies. And they should have the freedom.
So is it policy there, or is it like you? It's your
No. This
responsibility,
is, we've thought a lot about this, and this is the place we have come to this, that university has a special role in society to be the generator of new knowledge and new ideas. And if you can't allow that to play out, then you're killing off the main thing of it.
So also, I mean, how do you view the power dynamics between students in, I mean, the administration, and is there a room for change?
What's the problem you're trying to fix?
So I mean, if I take the Indian context,
Yeah.
so I mean, at most time there do not exist the system of decision making.
Yeah.
I told you. So I mean, how should the students, put forward their demands
Okay,
in
so
such setting?
I think the demands kind of freaks me out a little bit because it feels like an adversarial relationship. But maybe there are times when that relationship will become adversarial, right? But I think the more constructive way to think about it is, particularly in a place like IIT, right? That we are a community of faculty, a community of students, there's staff, there's administrators. We all belong to the same community, and I think we have each other's best interests in mind. There is no against them, right? Typically, the conflict, if we even want to call it that, arises because resources are limited, and administration, of course, has the financial responsibility of making the place run. And when the thing goes in the red, students are not only responsible if they need the connector that's going to be responsible. So they have a particular responsibility and they have to make certain decisions. If the engine is working properly, and then the kind of difficult decisions that people are responsible have to make, if they explain it to you and you have a good relationship and you build trust, you can at least listen to the logic for why this has to be done and not that. And if you are expressing opposition, then the director also knows that there's a real problem here. This is going to screw this person up for this reason, and therefore maybe I need to look for the So I think the thing works best if we get to a point of trust, where everybody understands that you're working in the same direction, and this is not really you and let's see you win. That's not what it's here.
So now, like having completed your initial education in India and then you moved to America for your further studies. So what influenced your decision to continue your academic and professional career there?
As
Join-
opposed to here, or
like,
Yeah, as opposed to
as opposed to here. Man, I just wanted a lot of freedom and I wanted to get away from my parents, basically. I didn't want to get married, let's put it that way. I don't want
I mean, that is the same position which I am.
yeah,
in
yeah.
right
So,
now.
I mean, if I stayed here, I would give me to do. So, yeah, I'll be a person. But more than that, I think I was very curious about the world. I wanted to see the world. And it was such a good feeling. I mean, I know, when I first landed here, I wanted my dad to go home quickly so I could, have fun here and figure out what this place was about. And when I left for the US, not that I didn't miss India and miss my family, was that the world opened up and I had my graduate fellowship, a little bit of money in my pocket, not much, but at least it was my money. Lots and travel and meet the people. It just opened up the world.
Yeah.
That was the part. But the other part is, of course, that even the world of ideas and research really opened up to people. Suddenly we were space that was really for other people.
And I mean, what about the professionally doing the career outside of it?
I mean, look, it's not all of the roses. Who are in a foreign country. I think generally the US is pretty good, and particularly the university community are actually really quite accepting of many different kinds of people. I was always surprised by how easily one could settle in. Like, even being a foreigner, you could get quite comfortable quite fast. That's not to say that racism doesn't exist, it certainly exists. So one can't be too innocent about these things, but within the university community, I've always found that there are so many different kinds of people. It's a pretty accepting community, a very well educated, well talented. So it generally work, but of course, the first generation of the immigrants have a lot of fighting and finding their pathway.
So, ma'am, how do you see the growth and development of young Indian institutions like in the global academy?
Yeah, because the major issue is, as we were talking about before the interview, that a lot of people prefer to do their antics or PhDs outside Indian university. Well, the one thing is the freedom that you said.
Yeah.
That's also there. But there's also one point that Indian institutes are relatively newer than established universities outside India. How do you split?
I mean, look, first of all, nobody can discount the amount of talent there is in India. 1.4 billion people, even a tiny fraction being brilliant is plenty good enough. I mean, no
Yeah.
question about it, right? And you can see how China played the game now. They have built out their research infrastructure in very substantial order, really, really quickly. And now they are giving to US to 1.1. Not every sector, but some sectors is really good. I think India is doing that. Now we are a democracy here, so it's not as top down. But on the other hand, it is beautiful. You see the roots of it. And I think even now you can already see it. In my time, more than half my class would go on to graduate student. Yes, because there were no opportunities for jobs. And that is really falling off. That's telling me there's something happening here that they love.
I mean, even for jobs, there are opportunities, but if you want to talk about the research,
Yeah.
I mean, the discussion is more or less that there are opportunities outside.
That's probably true now, right? But that thing will get built over time. Look at you're competing with US, which is a huge juggernaut and has been for about a year. So we take time to get there. And it's probably true that research of there are being good by them. But this will believe that they will have to be.
So, like, yeah, brain drain is a concern in
Yeah.
India. So, like, how do you think, like, what measures can be implemented to, like, retain talented students remain there?
Yeah, so I mean, again, being a democracy, you can't, shut the doors and lock everybody in, right? So you really have to build the opportunity. So again, investing in research, concentrating, certainly on problems that would be one part. Providing pathways for people to go back and forth from the US is another way of ensuring that there's connection to the other world and not really also other kinds of markets. So I would be so it makes me real money.
I mean, when you'll visit next time, maybe.
No, I did before that. I mean, there's so many ways to make now. It's much easier. You don't have to write the and post this thing, make a stamp, coming everything with it.
The process of texting. Yeah, I mean, we have covered majority of the questions. Just one thing, I mean, this is I want to ask him how the journalism body. I mean, do you have the students in the body?
I mean, we don't have a journalism school in Oregon State, but there's a student newspaper. We do real good.
So at last, like,
Last message for the outgoing batch, like.
I mean, you've convocated a lot of
Yeah. No, I mean, look, I'm so excited for them. They're just starting their new life, and I hope they're as excited about their future as I am excited for their future. Very best of all of them.
And of course, like in few days, like new batches also coming.
I know it's like a new batch coming in. You will discover all the wonderful
So any one message for them from your side? I mean, because they'll be watching it.
Yeah. I think they need to experience IIT fully, right? Which of course means strong academic, means strong extracurricular, but more than anything else, they will be surrounded with very smart people in a way that we want at high school. High school, you're a smarter person, and but here you'll be surrounded by smart people. What a treasure that is! To make the most of that, have fun, learn from each other, explore things, go hike, go see this beautiful place all the time. Live the big one.
So I mean, thank you so much for your time, and we're so grateful that we can have this conversation with you. I mean, one.
Really fun talking. So good luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
For